Hey guys, today we're going to be learning about bleeding control and tourniquet application. To start off, the 4 steps of bleeding control are going to be pressure. Obviously, this is simply going to be applying pressure directly over the bleeding wound. If that does not work, then we will move on to elevation while maintaining pressure. So if I have a bleeding wound here, I'll have pressure and just elevate it above my heart. After that, if the bleeding has still not stopped, we'll find a nearby arterial point, such as the brachial artery if the bleeding is on the lower arm, and apply pressure there as well. If none of these steps work, then we will move on to tourniquet application because we are dealing with an arterial or very serious bleed. Your typical tourniquet is going to look like this one, and it will be inside of one of your bags and staged in a fashion that has one piece coming out of the middle. In order to use the tourniquet, you will push that piece out and grab either side of the tourniquet and then pull it, fully opening it into a circle where a limb or extremity can be put into. Abby here is going to act as my patient, and we're going to pretend that I did all the steps of bleeding control for a bleed on her lower arm and none of them worked. So we have gotten to tourniquet. Now, we have figured out that it's an arterial bleed, so a tourniquet is necessary. What I'm going to do, slide her arm into the tourniquet and apply the tourniquet 2 to 3 inches above the bleed or simply high and tight. Either way works, both are fine. Once her arm is inside of the tourniquet, I will take this red strip right here and remove the Velcro, allowing me to tighten it against her skin. What I will do is tighten as much as I can and then apply the Velcro so that it stays in place. At this point, the bleeding will not stop, but it will allow me to tighten the tourniquet so that I can do it. Next, I will remove the time strip and place it on the other end in order to be able to tighten the windlass. Right here is your windlass. This is going to be your mechanism of tightening to put pressure on the artery so that the bleeding can stop. I will spin the windlass until the bleeding stops, and then I will relocate it into its holder. Once I have done that, I will take any excess Velcro from the strap, pull it through the same holder that the windlass is in, and hang it over. Finally, I will take the time strip, put it across that Velcro, and write the time on the strip and on the patient's forehead so that the doctors at the hospital know how long the tourniquet has been applied on the patient. In the field, however, you don't always have a nice tourniquet like this one, but you still have to stop life-threatening bleeds to save lives. There's a very simple way to make makeshift tourniquets that have the same function as the nice tourniquets we just used. All you need is a long piece of cloth that you can wrap around a patient's arm, extremity, or anywhere above a bleed. For today, we'll be using a triangle bandage, and you will also need a non-pliable small object that you can use as a makeshift windlass. Today we will be using this EpiPen auto injector. If Abby has an arterial bleed in the same spot, but I do not have a nice tourniquet that I can use to stop that bleeding, I will still do my best to control it so that I can save her life. For a makeshift tourniquet, I will take this piece of cloth, tie it at the same spot that I would use the other tourniquet at, with a simple knot, like that. At this point, you want it to be tight, but not completely cutting off circulation because that is what your windlass is for. After you've made that simple knot 2 to 3 inches above the injury or high and tight, you will take your makeshift windlass, put it on top of that knot, and then do one more knot on top of the windlass to secure it into place, just as shown. Once the windlass is secure, you can start to tighten it until the bleeding stops. Once the bleeding has stopped, you will take the excess parts of cloth from your makeshift tourniquet and put them in the direction contrary to the movement of the windlass as to stop it from unraveling. Like that. Once you have done that, you can go underneath the arm, finish tying a knot, and then writing the time on the patient's forehead for the same purpose as before. That is your makeshift tourniquet, your regular tourniquet, and your 4 steps of bleeding control.